film the content that they're asking for. I said no. And truthfully, I make more money for my podcast than I do on an episode of Teen Mom. So for me, it just didn't feel right. And I accepted the fact that there was a possibility that I wasn't going to be in tonight's episode. And then I got the email this morning with the episode that I wasn't in. I didn't watch it, but I asked, is this the episode that I'm not going to be in? And they confirmed. So I'm just giving my side. Nobody cut me out. It had nothing to do with Brianna and Jade. It had nothing to do with Brianna having more going on than me. It's literally that I chose not to film things that did not feel genuine to me or to my story.
Hey guys, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. I have not checked in with Teen Mom 2 this season, really at all. And it's for a variety of reasons. I'm sure a lot of you have noticed that we have really cut back on the Teen Mom coverage. And a lot of it has to do with the show really nearing its end and the waning interest in the show and the overall just cast not being the most likable, or people just kind of growing tired of the drama. But something happened yesterday on Instagram and I thought I would address it because I think it's a keenly interesting aspect of reality television that a lot of you guys are always asking about, that I've known about, but that a lot of the viewers don't want to see. When you're on a reality show, right, like, you're not really reality. I think we've talked about this a lot. We've talked about how scenes are scripted to a point. People go into scenes knowing what the producers want them to talk about, and production has the suggestions on the storyline of what that person's going to be doing. Reality TV used to be about how people would just be followed through life and they would craft a story around the life of that person. Over the years on Teen Mom, though, we've noticed that things have been very filtered. We've noticed that key things that are happening in people's lives off camera are not included. And we've noticed that more and more things seem to be omitted that are actually happening offline. Someone in particular that has not always omitted anything has been Kailyn Lowry. So Kailyn, even at her lowest, was using the show to air out any kind of grievance. In fact, last year she had a huge problem when she started speaking about an issue that happened between her and Javi that involved his ex-fiance Lauren, and it had real life effects by causing Lauren and Javi to break up, by creating sort of an unfair platform for Lauren. And she apologized to Lauren for the situation that she put her in by airing it out on the show when she was not on the show. With that being said, perhaps Kailyn has learned something. This is what happened. So last night on the episode, which I did not watch, Kailyn did not appear on the show. So she was cut out of the episode. And if you remember, something very similar happened to Janelle Eason in the last season that she appeared. And now for Janelle, the reason she was cut out had to do with the fact that they didn't have enough footage for an episode because David had been making it very difficult for her to film. In this case, there seems to be a disagreement between cast members about why Kailyn was not in this episode. So Brianna took to her Instagram and was also speaking on different fan accounts talking about how that Kailyn had been cut out of the episode because she didn't want to speak about her arrest, which happened in September. So something big did happen to Kailyn in September that had been all over the news. She did get arrested and she had been charged with DV related to an incident that happened with her and Chris. Chris has not been on Teen Mom 2. He's not been a focal part of the show, only sort of in sound bites where she talks about him, but he's never wanted to be on the show. And she said, so she was apparently not wanting to have this part of her life filmed. So the arrest was in response to a disagreement that they had had apparently over a haircut that Chris had given to their son, Lux. And the haircut, which Kailyn talked about at the time on her podcast Coffee Convos, made her come out of character and act a certain type of way. Not immediately following the incident was a report made and corroborated by people around Chris. Now, when the report was made and when she was charged, Kailyn, and the speculation was that Chris's sister and his mom might be lying and exaggerating what had happened. And eventually, the charges against Kailyn were dropped. So she was not charged with anything and the case is closed. So she's not in trouble. And from a legal perspective, whether it happened or not is, I guess it's not irrelevant, but legally there was no consequences. Following the arrest, apparently the storyline that the producers wanted had to do with this. And here's what Kailyn had to say on her Instagram.
So I chose not to participate in tonight's episode because I didn't feel like the content that was being asked for was genuine or authentic to who I am. And furthermore, I don't feel like I should be a storyline out of Chris or Javi or Joe if I don't feel like that is truly as much a part of my life as it would be made to seem on this show. I have a lot of things going on for me business-wise, my house, my kids, things like that I wanted to film, and they really weren't interested. So while I was told initially that I was going to be in all 12 episodes, it ended up that I wasn't in tonight's episode.
So Kailyn doesn't want to talk about what happens with Chris. She had other ideas about what she wanted to show for her parts of the series. She wanted to focus on her other jobs, on her house, on her kids, all the things that she has going on besides the boys, which is new because every other season she's had no problem talking about them. So maybe this is a maturity thing, having gone through what she went through. But it's interesting that the first time there's actually something that's really negative and going to paint her in a negative light, she doesn't want it on the air. However, as a mother, I could see maybe not wanting it on air because maybe she knew it was fake and she knew that what was happening was a setup and maybe she knew that it wasn't going to go anywhere. And so maybe she felt like it would be more detrimental to show that on air and maybe didn't want to be a part of it for the sake of her kids. Either way, it seems like there was a disagreement between her and producers, with producers wanting her to talk about it and her refusing. Another piece that I thought was interesting was that, and Brianna, who spoke out about this, she said that Kailyn was not being authentic, to which Kailyn responded by saying this.
It had nothing to do with Brianna and Jade. It had nothing to do with Brianna having more going on than me. It's literally that I chose not to film things that did not feel genuine to me or to my story, and truly choosing like my peace of mind over a paycheck. And I have the ability to be authentic and be unscripted and be real on my podcast. And I want to continue filming for Teen Mom so long as that it feels genuine and real. And if it doesn't, then that's okay for me to skip out on an episode.
So Kailyn says that she'll be authentic with her audience on her podcasts. And that's where you're going to see her true self, her true life, and everything that's going on with her. And that she doesn't need Teen Mom because she makes more money on her podcasts than she does on an episode of Teen Mom. And so for her, it wasn't that big of a deal if she was left out of an episode and everything is fine, hunky-dory, life is moving on. It almost in a way just seems like a argument over semantics, right? So from Brianna's point of view, she's left out because she refuses to film, and so therefore they cut her out, right? From Kailyn's point of view, she says, don't want to film and I'm not going to follow that narrative, so don't film me, and if I get it cut out, whatever. So it almost seems like it's just whoever side you're on. Like if you're on the production side, they're going to be like, well, she refused to film and so we cut her out, being the ones in control, and Kailyn being like, well, I didn't want to film anyway, so you can't have me on the show there. It's two different points of view. So what I did was I shared this information on my Instagram, and I got some takes from you to figure out what your thoughts were, because I felt personally in the middle about this. On the one hand, I can understand why she wouldn't want this aired. On the other hand, I think it's disingenuous to leave out certain aspects of your show if you're claiming to be on a reality show, right? Which is a part of reality television we talk about, and I try to remind you guys of. Just because it's something that we see on TV doesn't mean that it's reality. We can go with whatever the storylines are of the producers, but we have to remember that at the end of the day, this is what the producers want to put out of this storyline. And when you start talking about a storyline, that's when things can get weaved in that become slightly fictional and can get over dramatized. So it's hard when you're a reality TV talent to have any control because the contracts are never in your favor. So in a way, you can kind of commend her for standing up and saying, no, I'm not comfortable. But she got the ramification of, okay, you're not comfortable, you're not going to be included. Now, the comments from you were very mixed on what your thoughts were, and I just want to highlight a few. One person said this in defense of Kailyn. I feel like it's good for her if she doesn't want to film a certain scenario, she doesn't have to. I think it's great she stood up for herself. I feel like a lot of young people on reality television get taken advantage of by networks to do something that they don't want to. I just feel like Kail has really grown up as a person, and she's one of the few I actually like from Teen Mom. And then someone else said this, sort of in defense and also questioning Kailyn, saying, I'm curious as to why she'd want to continue filming for a company, producer, and network that doesn't see eye to eye on the type of content that goes public. And she claims she doesn't need the show. Why continue? Good points. Very good points. In the one respect, why would you continue filming for the show if you don't need the money? My guess is that while she doesn't technically need the money and she can sit out one episode and not get filmed for that episode amount, a lot of her success on her podcast is directly associated with being on the show. And so there's questions about what kind of brand she has minus Teen Mom. Can she truly have interest and people want to tune into her if she's not on if she's not on a reality show? These are valid questions, but why would she want to continue? Well, obviously, it helps all of her brands to be on MTV. Another person said this on the contrary to Kailyn. I think it's hypocritical to say you're being authentic and not showing behavior you actually chose to partake in and wasn't scripted. I understand not wanting something like that shown on national TV that your kids could someday see, but let's call it protecting my image, not being authentic. And Brianna, as always, will jump at any opportunity to put her name in the situation, even when she isn't relevant. So on this perspective, is she being authentic if she's willingly choosing not to show a part of her life that actually doesn't paint her in a very good light? Because maybe even if the arrest wasn't as, let's say, even if the charges were dropped, maybe there was an altercation. Maybe it did get physical. Maybe she doesn't want people to see that. Does it affect her brand if there would have been evidence that she had gotten physical with him? Absolutely. I think it would have affected her audiences for her podcast, and I think it might have affected maybe some of her business partners. You just don't know. Another person said this, it's called reality TV. You show your real life. You shouldn't get to cherry pick what is shown and what isn't shown. The other moms haven't done that. She isn't better than the other moms on the franchise. And then finally, this person said, both her and Amber shouldn't have the platform anymore. I know that if I attacked someone and got arrested, my job would be in jeopardy. What makes these people any different? So at the end of the day, you guys were split. Some of you guys saw her perspective of not wanting to show something that happened, while others of you feel like she is filtering out something that happened that could involve DV and ultimately could affect her long term, and questioning why she's continuing to get a platform if this is in fact true, or the charges were dropped. So we really don't know if they pulled them because there was just insufficient evidence, if people stopped cooperating, or if it just got dropped because they withdrew their complaint. We really won't know, and clearly she doesn't want to talk about it, but I will say this. If domestic violence happens and members of a show are involved in domestic violence situations, I think it's unfair to the audience that it's filtered out, because the promise is that you get to see every aspect of their life. And I do think that if people are participating or are part of that in their private lives and have a public face, the audience does deserve to know the truth, because it's important for many people, especially moms and those people she's speaking to know, is she who she says she is? Is she really doing this kind of stuff that could affect the 4 million people that follow her? So some people won't care, some people will. At the end of the day, this is reality TV, and Kailyn says, well, I didn't want to film. And Brianna says, you're lying. You didn't want to show the arrest. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.